And thank you so much for joining wherever you're joining in from. I also share this on my YouTube channel. So if you're watching from YouTube, feel free to remember, click the subscribe button and leave comments, and we'll get back to you with any questions that you have. So I hired Amy actually through this group, through a question that I asked about networking. And uh, I deal with anxiety and some eating issues, food digestion issues, and Amy's been helping me with so much more than that, to really sort of let go and lean in. And one day I emailed Amy about somebody that was pushing my buttons, that I was allowing to push my buttons. And really what I was allowing was them to push my boundaries. And I said, oh my goodness, what a great topic.
Yep, absolutely. It really is a great topic for everyone for almost every area of our lives.
So
I
would you
don't think
just
there's a
share,
single area you can't talk about this.
right, would you just share a little about what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Amy Gernaat. I am the owner of Amy G Vitality. So I am a vitality coach. My background is in functional and holistic nutrition and the nervous system. So I have mentorship programs, coaching programs, and then I also have an academy where I train coaches to essentially do what I do. So for me, I kind of developed vitality coaching out of the necessity of needing to go deeper with my clients than just working on food and their physical symptoms, and understanding that we're not here to fix physical symptoms. We actually are using them as the roadmap to what's really going on, because the body is so wise and has so much intelligence and so much to tell you that when you tap into the reserves of that, it opens up a whole new world for you as far as how you are living your life, what's in alignment, what's not in alignment, and what boundaries you have in place that are or are not working for you. And so one of the main places, and Tracy and I have talked about this, is really, what are you saying yes to and what are you saying no to? It's a huge piece of the puzzle. And this works, of course, for every area of your life, but we're going to kind of focus in the business realm today. Like, where are you doing this or not doing this in your business, and the different areas that kind of pop up, that kind of came up for us to talk about, and what that looks like and what it creates, not just in your business, but in your physical health, because it's going to show up there.
Right. And so we're talking about adding, like we have control of our destiny to a certain point, and we have control of what we put on our calendar. And so what would be one of the ways that we may get into overwhelm or burnout, or not having really clear boundaries?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, burnout really is kind of the underlying player of what most everyone is dealing with when it comes to health. And it's a lack of really understanding who you are, what you're doing, and like you said, where you're spending your time, so that you don't trip over into that. And burnout shows in many different ways for many different people. So, usually we kind of think of it as just being tired or fatigued or exhausted, but it can show up with headaches. It can show up with hormone wonkiness. It can show up with GI issues. It shows up all over the place. And one of the ways in your business that this can be stemming from is your time management. And really, even beyond managing, because managing has a wonky energy to it, because it's like you're trying to like juggle the plates. So we don't want to juggle the plates. We want to be very clear and very precise and very aligned with what we are saying yes to and what we are saying no to within the time that you are allowing for your business to function, and the time you are allowing for the rest of your life to also function, because they are going to overlap. So if you are saying, I want to work 15 to 20 hours a week, I want to work this amount seeing clients, I want to work this amount on admin or whatever those other little things are you're going to do, and you continually go over that amount because you want to, accommodate this client, or you want to add all this stuff in, if you're constantly going over that, you are expending energy that's actually out of what was aligned with you to begin with, your standard for how you're going to operate your business. When you do that, when you're constantly going over that time threshold that you have allowed for yourself, you have to pull energy reserves from somewhere else in your life and your body in order to do that. So that energy has to come from somewhere. So if you haven't decided that I'm going to actually spend 25 hours because that is what I really want to do, and you're saying, no, I really want to do 20, but you're constantly going to 25. So that 5 hours of time, the energy is going to come from somewhere. And where it typically ends up coming is from your physical health. So you won't maybe go on the walks that you need to be doing, or you won't make the food that actually feels really good to you. This is not about dieting. This is what food feels good to your body and makes you feel come alive and feel really nourished and really supported. So you are going to make decisions then that will take away from the areas in your life that are supportive to add more hours that are not aligned with what you have chosen for your business. That will begin to erode how your health feels. It will erode your energy, it'll erode your focus, and your brain fog and brain fatigue will come in. And it can also cause an enormous amount of internal stress. Now we've got all the GI issues. So you see, just by adding that 5 hours of time over what you know is correct for you, what you've decided, here, not here, here is right for you, your body is going to tell you. It is going to show up in some way, and it will let you know, hey, you're pulling energy from me, you're pulling reserves from me. Now you're withdrawing more than that you actually have available to you, and you're going into the red. And you don't feel well, and you wonder what's going on. And even though it's only a couple of hours can make a substantial difference in how you feel over the long term. So this is not just about in the moment. This is an accumulative effect. So it's going to accumulate over the long term. And that's why, like, all of a sudden, 6, 12 months down the line, you really feel terrible. And you're like, what happened? All of a sudden you wake up one day. It's been happening the whole time, but it's in such small increments that you're not seeing it. You're not in tune with it.
Oh, such good stuff. And for those of you that are watching this live, I'm keeping an eye on comments. If you have any questions or comments and you're watching this live, please go ahead and ask and share where you're joining in from. One of the ways that I think not having a clear boundary is whenever I am expecting something from somebody else or doing this, pointing the finger, why are they? How come they? They are, then there's 3 fingers pointing back at me. And I think that's what I was doing last week. Why is she pushing why is she, when you were helping me to go, wait, what are you, and you did it in a very gentle way, what are you not clear about for her to do what she's doing? And I remember when I started the membership that I have, it's called, little plug here, Visions to Profits Women's Membership. I had hired a coach to help me with the group accountability meetings. And I said, they're not showing up. Every Tuesday I'm holding this meeting at 9:00 and they're not showing up. And he's like, how many reminders are you giving? Are you talking to them? Are you having conversations with them? And he was able to really kind of say, wait, you're having an expectation of them not doing something. What are you not doing that you're like, go with that.
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying. And I love that whole example, because anytime we have an external expectation of somebody to do something and we're getting frustrated by, it's really because there's something that we are or are not doing ourselves in that situation. So like if someone is repeatedly pushing your buttons on something, have you ever had the conversation of, this is over my boundary? Or because if they don't know, they don't have the opportunity to understand that that is crossing a line for you. And that can be a very challenging and very uncomfortable conversation. I am not going to pretend like those conversations are easy, because a lot of times they aren't. So by doing that, you are really allowing them to press the buttons because you are not clear on saying that that is not okay for me. Because that's really what boundaries are. It's just really saying this is okay and this is not. Really simple. It doesn't need to be like anything, angry or anything along those lines. It's boundaries are not something rigid and angry. We kind of tend to think that they are, and they really aren't. Because I mean, think of what that does in your body if things
Oh,
are very, very rigid. It makes you tense. So that's going to bring up anxiety. It's going to shut down flow in your body, which is going to shut down flow in your business as well. So boundaries are not meant to be very rigid. They are just meant to be clear. Just meant to be clear. Yes, no. Because we all know what our yes and our no is. We just don't always like to say them. We'd rather say, maybe, or let me think about that. When you say the phrase, let me think about that, you already know the answer. You are just unwilling in that moment for whatever reason. There's no judgment or shame here. I want to be very clear about that. For some reason, you are hesitant to speak what your true answer actually is, which is it is yes or it is no. And there are ways to say it where you're just not like, no. It doesn't mean you need to say it like that. You can even say, thank you, that's not for me right now. Something as simple as that. Or thank you, that's not for me. Not even that's not for me right now, because that's not the truth. It's not for you. And so saying even that little delineation makes a difference. And I know we're being kind of a little bit micro here, but this is just to get the wheels spinning of how you say things that are not actually the truth, because we're kind of softening the edges a little bit because we don't want someone else to feel bad. We don't want them to feel rejected. We don't want them to feel hurt. And so we're really answering from a place of people pleasing as opposed to really being true and honest with ourselves. Because when we are saying the truth, it's always best for everyone, even if it doesn't feel like it for the other person or necessarily for you. It still could be really uncomfortable to say that yes or that no. So when someone's always pushing your buttons, you have to look at yourself and say, where and why am I allowing this to happen? What have I not made clear either to myself or the other person about this situation? And what is the action that I need to take to correct it? So that it is clear, and it's clear for me. And if need be clear for the other person, it needs to be clear for you first and foremost, and then clear for the other person if that conversation actually needs to happen. Because when you're not doing that and you're constantly getting that button pushed on the same thing, you're constantly, again, energy is going to that. And that's a lot of very animated, very stressful energy going to that thing that's pushing the button right then. And so when you do that, again, you are pulling energy from other places in your business, other places in your physical body, in your relationships, to continually react to that button being pushed instead of saying, why is the button being pushed? What have I not made clear? And if you want to even go a step deeper in, why is that button available to be pushed in the first place? Because there's something lying underneath that button. So we can get to the place where the button's not being pushed, but why is the button there?
right. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so good. And
Yeah.
Carrie says, I learned a long time ago to have zero expectations so I don't have emotional pitfalls. And she's joining from Southern Indiana. I love Terry. Thank you for joining.
Yes. And thank you for the great comment, because the expectation factor in
Oh,
every area of your life, whether it's your business relationships, personal relationships, expectation of an outcome is where you can get really stuck and really mired down, because you're focused there and not what is the immediate thing that I can actually do here, or what is the immediate way that I can change my perspective of this, because I am in control of how I respond and react. And so yeah, the expectation factor is really big, an expectation of wanting someone to behave in a certain way instead of the acceptance that this is how this person is going to behave. Good, bad doesn't make any difference there. This is where they're at. So having an expectation that they should be doing something different instead of just the acceptance of this is who they are, and that is perfectly okay for them to be exactly as they are. And so it comes back to us. Is that okay with us? And it's really not a big deal and we're making it a big deal? Or is it something that's really not okay? And so something in the relationship actually needs to shift.
right.
Yeah.
Carrie also says some people just beginning to establish boundaries, they can be firm only until they understand what their boundaries are. Right? Like it's a
Mm.
practice. Like I remember I was telling Amy before I hit record that I used to meet clients when I was doing a lot of social media consulting. And they were business owners, and I would sit with them for coffee for like an hour, like with no time. It was like when you're dating and the date has a specific time and then he's like out of here. Well, I'd be like, I'm here for you. And, and it felt weird because I
Mhm.
wasn't clear on my boundaries. And I would give them all this really good information about growing their business and like as much as I could. I just, bleh, like on a first date, like when, and like, and I would walk away and I'd feel weird
Mhm.
and I rarely hear from them again. And it was a coach again that said, why are you doing that? Pick up the phone and have 15-minute conversations and like let them know ahead of time it's a 15-minute
Mhm.
conversation.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes, exactly. Because again, this is your energy. So you're deciding what to do with it. And so if you're walking away from something and it feels really wonky, not necessarily like a discomfort that has some excitement under it, that's a very different thing, where it just feels like that did not feel good. I didn't feel good in my body to be doing that. That didn't feel good like in my mind. It just didn't feel good because you know that you weren't clear about what you were having the conversation about. Now, if you want to go into a coffee conversation like that and you're like, you know what, I'm going to go into this, I'm going to give it as much time as it needs because I feel like that's required for, this particular conversation. Fabulous. Make it be a full body yes to doing that instead of well, let me just give them everything I've got now because I don't want them to feel like I'm cutting them off or they're not getting everything that I have to give them. Because the reality is, and part of the reason why you don't hear from them again is that they weren't ready for everything that you had to give them in that moment. It was overwhelming. And you have all this amazing gifts and this magic and all this stuff to give people, but people are at different thresholds and they might not be ready for all the magic you have to bring, but they were ready for that 15, 30 minutes of the magic you had to bring to open and activate some things within them for them to ask deeper questions of themselves instead of you drawing it all out or laying it all out for them. It activates within them. And so then they have a clear path for themselves of what their next steps are, whether it's to work with you or go work with somebody else. But yeah, you essentially just all of your energy to this person. And it wasn't the time for that to happen. And so that's a clarity of this is a 30-minute 15-minute phone call. This is a 30-minute coffee conversation, whatever it is. And then be able to end the conversation on time based off the time that you have allotted for it and move on.
Right.
Not feel uncomfortable or weird or then sit in that weird, wonky energy that feels not good. You can just
Oh,
go to the
that
next thing.
space. And that, what Terry said, just beginning.
Yeah.
I think back to that time and I get that feeling in my gut that, oh, and I think how clear my boundaries are today. And, it's 20 some years of business
Yeah.
experience and really clear contracts and,
Yes.
emails pop up or messages pop up and texts. And I get a choice of reacting. Am I going to react? Am I going to respond? Or am I going to wait, and I live with a man, my husband, who has such clear boundaries. I'll look at his phone, well, not very often, but I remember one time looking at his phone and going, "You have all those texts? What?" And he's like, I'm working. Work. I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "But it's your business." He's like, he's very focused.
Yeah.
I'll get to that when I get to that, or I'll return that call when I return that call. So
Yes.
it's that learning, that practice and practice and practice.
Yes. And for, as women, men can be very singular focused. They're so good at that. For women, we tend to be multitaskers. And that is not necessarily a good thing because then we're like bouncing to this like squirrel, 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 squirrel. So we're bouncing to all these things based off of external notifications, drawing our energy and drawing our attention to it instead of deciding for us, where is my attention going? And so something really simple you can do if that's an issue for you, the bouncing, like there's a message here and a message here, and you just want to react and respond to all the things, is when those are coming in and you start to feel like you have to respond, stop just for a moment. Do I want to respond? Not even need.
Good.
Do I want to respond in this moment? Or do I want to respond later in the day when I have completed whatever it is I'm focusing on right now? So it's really a pattern, almost kind of like a pattern interrupt. So this is my pattern, and I'm used to just responding to every single thing as it comes up. And especially if like you're a mom with little kiddos at home who are constantly needing your attention, you can take that same energy then into your business because you're, wanting to respond to your child. And it's a totally different thing with your business to respond to just every little thing that someone needs, because their emergency is not your emergency. So you have to decide, is this something that I want to respond to now? So I'm saying yes to respond, and then be very clear that this is a conscious choice rather than an unconscious response. So you're unconsciously doing it because it's a habit that's going to happen. That's part of this whole change of the way that you're thinking. So the quick pattern interrupt is to stop and ask, do I want to answer this now? Yes or no? And then honor what you have chosen, yes or no. So don't say no and then like, oh, would I really want to answer it? Because you feel the need to, not because you actually want to. So you're like, so then you just do it like 5 minutes later, the compulsion is there. If you do it, it's okay. I don't want you to beat yourself up for doing that, because it's going to take some practice. Just like you said, boundaries are a practice to change that behavior pattern, to do something that feels better to you, where your energy is for you all day and not just leaking out in all these
Right.
places, because those are energy leaks when you do that, because you take your focus away. Now you've got to get the energy back, get yourself refocused, and do what you're doing again. So it takes extra energy to do that. So if you're doing the squirrel thing every time you get the notification, another thing that you can do is choose, again, a yes, to turn off notifications for certain periods of time, even if it's just for 30 minutes or an hour, it doesn't matter. It's what works for you to start changing that behavior, so you're not leaking energy to where by the end of the day, you're exhausted and feel like you got nothing done because you're so scattered. So turn off notifications for an hour. See how that feels. Play with it. Like, have some fun with this. It doesn't have to be super serious and like, oh, nose to the grindstone on this. I have to get this pattern changed. It's going to happen. Play with it and have some fun and see what feels good for you and what works really well. It can be anything. Doesn't matter.
And I see lots of ladies giving us hearts. Carlene and Lee, welcome. Does anybody have any comments or questions? We've got about 5 minutes, and I just want to make sure that we cover everything here.
Yes,
Carlene,
it's a big topic.
yes, it's huge.
It is huge.
So Amy, where can people get a hold of you if they want to? I mean, she's in this group as well.
Yes, I'm in the group. I run most of my business through Facebook. So that is really the best place to contact me. So you can contact me through the group. My personal page, Amy Gernaat, is where I do most of my work. I do have the business page, Amy G Vitality, where you can definitely reach out to me there. But on my personal page is where I run most everything through. So you can contact me through that page. That's really the best place to get me.
Perfect. And I've been loving working with Amy. She's been helping me quite a bit. I mean, I just appreciate everything that you've been offering me in the last 6 weeks, I think.
Yeah, getting close to that. Yep.
Yeah. The one thing, and we've got like 5 minutes, and I'm going to put a little offer for all of you. I'll go back and edit this later on. And lots of hearts. Thank you so much for joining, watching the
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, please comment, even if you're watching the replay later, what you got out of this and where you are with boundaries. The one thing that I've learned over time is the clearer that I've become, and it's such a funny thing, right? Like the older we become, kind of the wiser we become, but kind of the less I know. It's the weird, like I'm
Well, I
wiser.
think it's kind of you realize you don't need to know so much.
Right.
You just need to be very clear on the really simple things. We try to make everything really big and complex, and that's where we get mired down and really stuck. Make it simple. This can be very easy. It doesn't sound like it because we make it really challenging because we like complexity. Because if we can overcome complexity, we have done something. We
Right.
have made an accomplishment where really we want it to be very, very simple. Make it easy. What is your yes? What is your no? You don't need to know all the things in order to do that because it really is something that comes from within. It's not a mental answer. And that's why a lot of times your body will tell you yes or no before it even hits your mind. And so another really great like little tip thing that you can do when you're asking yourself these questions on yes or no, it doesn't matter how simple it is. It could be what you're having for breakfast. So it doesn't need to be again a big business decision, but you can utilize this for a big business decision is does your body expand? Does it feel free? Does it contract and feel constricted? Because your body will tell you before this does.
That's good.
And so if you can tap into what that body is saying in that moment, because your mind might want to override that because it thinks it knows better, but it's going off of programming where the body has, it's not going off of programming. It's going off of instantaneous knowing. And so it is a much better barometer of your yes and no than what your mind is going to tell you.
That's so good. For me, what's happened over time is the clearer that I've become practicing, the more I'm attracting the, I'm just going to say, for lack of another word, right clients
Mm-hmm.
and people into my lives that are on the same, we're looking for the same thing. We're working on our spirituality and our health. And so there's not a lot of room in my life anymore for negative or, I used to hang with people that were just so negative. Well, again, right? Pointing the finger. And
What are these three fingers telling you?
right. So it's interesting. There's really not much negativity going on in my
Yeah.
world. And
Yeah. And when you're really clear on your yes and your no, it doesn't leave any room. There is no wiggle room there because it's a very definitive answer. Yes or no is there's no gray area. It is yes or it is no. And it doesn't mean that it's yes and allow that to expand into something more, but it is very clear in the moment of it's yes or it's no. And there's no room for anything else. Yeah. Which means no room for leaking that energy.
right. I
Yeah.
love that. Amy,
Yeah,
thank you so much for your time today. And
absolutely.
thank you all for joining. Please feel free to connect with Amy and or myself and comment wherever you're watching this from, how this has been helpful for you today. And stay tuned for the next pop-up coaching episode. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Bye.
Oops. Hold on. I got to get out of here. Stop live stream.
We're stuck.